I have to go in there knowing that I need to show up 100% every single day and make sure that they get the best of me and I get the best out of the training.
Most pilots don't understand what career opportunities are available in the world of aviation. They're making career decisions based on advice from friends or posts on internet forums, meaning they are taking huge risks with their livelihood without having all the details. This podcast was created to help you understand the aviation industry so you can find your dream job. Let's get ready for Pushback. Here's your host and my dad, Nick Fialka.
Hey, pilot, welcome back to Ready for Pushback. I'm Nick Fialka. I'll be your host today. I'm joined by my good friends, Chris and Whitney Robare, who are a military couple leaving the military, going to the regionals, and we talk all about what the journey's been like and the adventures and the tribulations and the nervousness and all the things. And if you are leaving the military and you have a spouse, share this with them because it's good information. It's great to hear all of their perspective. And I'll tell you what it boils down to. Spoiler, it's all about teamwork. And that's the key. It's such a good conversation. I hope you enjoy it. And I hope that your day is freaking awesome. You guys are the best. So sit back, relax. Let's get ready for Pushback. Hey, pilot, did you just get a new conditional job offer? Are you getting out of the military and going to move your family across the country? Are you going to move in base somewhere? Or are you going to go out to find that second home that you've been looking for? Well, I want you to stop right now, pick up the phone, and call Marty and the team at Trident Home Loans. It's an organization that's run by pilots. They understand pilot pay. They understand contracts. They understand military. They have the best VA loans in the United States. Marty and his team have been doing mortgages for years. They've been doing my mortgages for years. I trust him and his team more than any other organization. I challenge you to get a better deal anywhere else. Go ahead, reach out, get a mortgage quote, and then call Marty and his team. They will walk you through the process and show you how competitive their rates are. So go right now, TridentHomeLoans.com, and check them out. All right, Chris and Whitney. Whitney and Chris Robare, some of my favorite people. Hi, guys. How are you?
Good morning.
Good morning or good afternoon. You never know when somebody's going to listen to a podcast, right? So the Robares are here to talk about their experience. Chris is transitioning out of the Navy after 20 some odd forever years. And Whitney has not just been along for the ride, like she is actually an aviation professional herself. So Whitney, would you start us off by introducing yourself and telling the pilot that's listening a little bit about you?
Well, hello, pilots. My name is Whitney Robare. I've been married to my fellow here, Chris, for almost 16 years. I met him when he was, about 5 years in the Navy, and I was in school studying aviation management. Initially, I wanted to be a naval aviator, so it was interesting that he was in the Navy and that I was studying aviation. Fast forward a couple months. We went on a couple dates. I took him, I think I took you on your first general aviation flight. Mm-hmm. I took him on his first general aviation flight. We flew to North Carolina and had hamburgers. A couple years later, I realized that maybe the military wasn't what I wanted to do. So I transitioned to aviation management. So I get to be a boss. I run airports. I've worked at, maybe 7 different commercial service airports throughout my lifetime, as well as helped to run some general aviation airports as well. So I know a lot about pilots. I know a lot about aviation and the lifestyle that goes along with it. It's been fun to be on this ride for 16 oddish years with Chris as he's transitioned throughout Navy careers and then finally landing on being an aviator. So it has been a journey, to say the least.
Yeah, golly. All right, Chris, we'll see you later. I'm just going to talk to Whitney.
You got it.
Hey, buddy, so and you are a P-8 pilot. And talk to me about your career as well.
Yep. So I enlisted in 2005. I came in as electrician's mate. Did a couple deployments on the Theodore Roosevelt, and then I cross-rated to a CTN. I don't think those exist anymore. But yeah, cross-rated, and I was kind of searching for that quality of life. But that first deployment on the Theodore Roosevelt, it was the last Tomcat cruise. So I was able to see F-14s take off and trap on the deck. And it was just witnessing the sheer power of naval aviation. I was just like, yep, that's what I want to do. So from that moment forward, everything I did was in pursuit of becoming a naval aviator. And then, fast forward, finished up my degree while on active duty, got commissioned and got selected to go to flight school, and then did all the normal flight training that you do in the Navy. So started off in Pensacola, Milton, Corpus for multi-engine school, and then ended up at my fleet replacement squadron or readiness squadron, BP-30 in Jacksonville.
And so you flew P-8s for a handful of years, and now you are getting out, and you're relative, like in Navy terms, I guess, relatively low time, right?
Correct.
So what is the plan on getting out and getting flying?
So that was, there was a period where my last duty station where just the plan wasn't clear, and having a good tribe around you, and that's kind of where RTAG kicks in, just having a good tribe around you, having a good partner, backing you up, really helps out. So probably 2 years prior to that transition, retiring out of the Navy, I really didn't have a focused plan. And then, I had a guy come work with me, and he just kind of shed the light on, the 121 industry and how much it differs from naval aviation, and just kind of helped me realign my focus, along with Whitney, because she had been saying the same thing for many, many years. For years, yes. But that special guy being you, Nick. So I appreciate everything you've done and all the mentorship you've provided me over the years, and continue to do so, not only for me, but for my family as well. But being a low time pilot, and then having, recalibrated that focus on becoming a professional aviator, I got busy. So I started doing some general aviation flying around here in Monterey, doing all the things to get current again. So IPC, BFR, making sure that I was valuable to any potential employers when it's time for me to go talk to them.
Now, okay, so a couple things there. Whitney, you were kind of pushing him ahead of time, like, hey, you need to go to the airlines.
Yes.
Why?
So, I'm glad you asked that, Nick. I have an uncle who served active duty for maybe 8 years, and he flew on carriers, but not a fighter. He was a transport pilot of some sorts, and he transitioned out of the Navy and went over to FedEx. And just the quality of life that he had with his family just seemed amazing. Not to mention, there was a lot of money that seemed like it was being made as well. So it just seemed like between the financial aspect and the time, like he was always available, always active in his family's life. It just seemed like a no-brainer. You have this skill set that the Navy has trained you in. Why not use it outside the Navy, make a bunch of money, and spend a bunch of time with your family? It just seemed like it made sense.
Okay. Well, okay. Back to Chris then. So tell me how many hours you've got right now, low time.
Sitting at 1,200.
1,200 hours. So restricted ATP. So taking what Whitney just said, that idea of being the FedEx pilot or being, whatever airline, and being available and being able to make that money. You are certainly a little bit of distance away from that. So what has been the conversation with you guys about how to get to that point where you can get to a major, where things can kind of chill out a little bit? What have you guys been talking about?
So everybody's path is different, for sure. And then I think that's kind of what a part of the hesitation was that it was going to be such an uphill battle to eventually get to a FedEx or another legacy. And it's just one of those things, you don't know what you don't know until you start digging into it. And then again, you have people around you who are able to kind of show you the way. So once we start digging into it and seeing some, the regionals or other companies that allow low time pilots hop on, it started opening up the aperture for us. And, it started to be more of a realization that, okay, we can do this. It may take a little time to get to where we want to be eventually, but it is possible. So I think that was the first conversation we had. Like, hey, are we doing this? Yes. Okay. Now, how are we going to do this?
Yeah.
Knowing that it won't be glamorous and knowing that there are a lot of resources that we can plug into, we decided that it is a path that's worthwhile.
Okay, Whitney, talk to me about what are your thoughts about if Chris goes down the route and goes to a regional and you said you live in Monterey, California. You are not close to anything. And so it's going to be commuting. What does that look like in your mind, and how are you preparing yourself for that?
Okay, so I have an advantage in that I was a military spouse, right? So I've had to deal with my husband being gone for long periods of time. We have children. They're of school age and they're very active. So I think I'm very well versed in making it do what it do, if in colloquial speak.
Yeah.
So I'm very structured, very regimented, very organized. So I think that's something that is going to help me along here. But there are lots of things that we've been talking about together to try to make this transition easier. One thing that comes to mind is just kind of getting the kids to where they need to go all the time. It's hard when you have one parent and there's no family around. So that is going to require us to either hire someone or lean on some family friends to kind of help us. Chris and I are fortunate in that our parents are retired, semi-retired, so they're available and they can come and help us at a drop of a hat. So I will definitely be leaning on family. I'll definitely be hiring some outside resources, whether that be meal planning, whether that be a shuttle driver, whether that be grocery delivery, whether that be cleaning services. I mean, these are all things that we will have to use. We'll have to lean on those things to help us to get through, at least through training. And then we'll figure out what comes next.
You could just do like us and just have like a completely disaster of a house and only eat Costco pizza.
Hey, I like Costco pizza.
Oh my gosh, we literally just had it yesterday, and I had a pizza. So regretful. So like, it's not even real food.
But what Whitney said just shows that everybody's path is different, but it does show how important and how great of a job this is for us to be willing to do all this planning and to have all these extra expenses just so that, it makes commuting easier, it makes her life easier while I'm away on the road. And then even for pilots who are, taking the low paying jobs just to build hours or, teaching for free as a CFI, like we all see that the juice is worth the squeeze. And definitely we're a testament that we know it's worth it because we have family, friends that have gone down this path before, and we're excited about the journey.
Timothy P. Pope is a certified financial planner dedicated to guiding professional pilots through smart financial planning. Whether it's saving for retirement, investment management, a seamless military transition, or strategic tax planning, Tim is your trusted financial partner. Also, you can join Tim as he leads engaging discussions on personal finance and strategies for professional pilots on the brand new Pilot Money podcast. Timothy P. Pope, helping professional pilots make the most out of life. How do you manage a budget without just maxing out your credit cards then? If you're because you're losing this income, right? So how are you going to manage that?
I'll pass that question over to my CFO.
We've been pretty active in our finances for a long time. I don't know how we got on this journey, but at some point in our military lives, we found ourselves wanting all the stuff, going all the places, doing all the things. And we realized like, hey, we've got to slow down. We've got to pump the brakes. We have to plan for these activities and we have to be smart about the choices that we make. So we've been actively budgeting for about 6 or 7 years. We use an app that helps us classify and categorize all of our expenses. We're fortunate in that I'm working and that we'll have the retirement pay. So we will have to reallocate, kind of our fun money, so to speak, for a while. But we know all budget adjustments can be temporary, right? So we just have to figure out something that works for us so that we can continue to live the lifestyle that we've been enjoying in the past. And as Chris alluded to earlier, it's about sacrifices. This is a short-term sacrifice that we're willing to make for a hopeful long-term gain.
Yeah, for sure. What app do you like? What budget app do you like?
So we use EveryDollar. We subscribe to the adages of Dave Ramsey, and that has been very fruitful for us for the last 6 or 7 years.
Good. Yeah, there's a few. There's You Need a Budget and EveryDollar and a few other ones. And I agree. It's funny you mentioned that because night before last, I was just winding down for the day, and my son Versati yells at me. He's like, "Pop, there's a leak in the roof." And it's like a beautiful day outside, and I've come around the corner, like, what are you even talking about? And there was water pouring out of the ceiling downstairs because the shower pan in the master bathroom had sprung, had failed. So we have this leak, and now I've got to have a new shower and all the things. And I'm thinking, the first thing I'm thinking about is how much is it going to cost me, and how am I going to manage this, and what am I because I don't have a budget bucket for failing shower pans, but but I do have a WTF column, right?
Yeah.
But that's, those are the things, it's going to be Chris gone on initial training, and it's going to be 60 days of him wherever, and the thing's going to happen. The tree's going to fall on the car. The thing is going to happen, right? And managing that is it's if you are strong on a budget, that's a good little peace of mind before having to emotionally deal with all the other trash.
Yeah, 100%.
Do you, so you guys, Chris, you're not in initial training yet. You did land a job.
I did.
Tell me about the process about trying to get yourself out there, because 2024, recording in 2024, and it's been a tough year for people trying to get hired at the regionals. How did you go down that path, and how many swings of the bat did it take?
Wow. So I have probably about a dozen apps out there on the street. And then funny enough, just getting ready for RTAG and taking a look at the sponsor sheet and seeing who was all going to be there, just making sure that I had my name in all the hats for the companies, right? And it wasn't until the last company that I put an app in for, I got a phone call back, and I was like, wow, okay. And then that process was pretty expedited. So I put my app in on a Tuesday. I got an email the very next day saying, hey, we would like to phone screen you. It's like, okay. So I go to schedule it thinking let me just go to RTAG, come back, get ready. They only gave me 2 days. It was either that same day that I got the email or the very next day. So I was like, shoot, okay, well, we're doing this. So I schedule it for the next day. I do the phone screen. And the HR director was very nice and asked a few questions, and it seemed like everything was going well. And then she was like, you know what, it's kind of a reach here, but would you be willing to come fly out Monday? So now we're talking Thursday. Would you be willing to fly out Monday to come interview for Tuesday? I was like, ooh, that's a tight turn. And I was upfront and honest. I was like, hey, I'm going to RTAG. I have kind of a busy week next week. Whitney was going to Las Vegas for airport convention, and I had committed to go with her for that as well. And then she's like, okay, just take your time, or not too much time though. Let me know like in 2 hours though, but take your time, talk to your wife and let me know. So I called Whitney. We had the conversation. She was like, yeah, let's do it. So I called the HR director back, and then sent me over all the paperwork to get my tickets booked. Flew out to Seattle that Monday. They put me up and then interviewed Tuesday. The whole interview process from the orientation, hanging out with the other interviewees probably took hour and a half. They gave me the CJO on the spot. I asked for an earlier flight home and I met Whitney in Vegas that same day. So it took about 6 days from app to CJO. And then I had to go hang out with my wife in Vegas to celebrate at her airport conference. So it was an incredible experience. And it was a great way to welcome me to the company because when I was there, everybody was so nice and so personable. I'm really looking forward to flying for this company.
Had you already been doing interview prep?
I have been doing interview prep. And I hear you say it all the time. I hear Tron say it all the time, like, stay ready so you don't have to get ready, right? So, because I definitely, 4 days wasn't enough time for me to just start getting ready for this interview. So good thing I had the tools in my pocket, the STAR method or teach, empathize, fix. Like I had all those in my pocket. That way, when I got called up for the interview, I was comfortable. So it really wasn't a high stress situation. It was just a matter of making sure that, again, everything was taken care at home so I could get on the road earlier than I had expected. And just, personally, I feel like I knocked it out the park. I got the CGL, so I hope they feel like I knocked it out the park, but there wasn't any stress because I was already prepared.
And who did you use for your interview prep?
Oh, Spitfire Elite. Yes, the amazing team at Spitfire got me ready.
That's right. He didn't have a choice. I kind of forced him.
Yeah, kind of got strong armed at that point.
Man, but I just it's a point I want to drive home because there are so many people that people squeeze out an interview at a regional and they think maybe I don't need to do interview prep. And I'll say probably in 2023, maybe it didn't, but in 2024 and beyond, just the barrier for entry is so high that they turn away so many folks. If you are not ready for that experience, you're going to get crushed and walk out of there empty-handed. And it's a real hard thing. And I hate meeting people when they say, hey, I decided to use Spitfire after I got a thanks but no thanks at my last interview. It's the worst.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to be ready to shoot your shot. So we were at RTAG. I think they said there were 5,000 people in attendance this year. And I don't have the exact math, but I want to say there was probably 1% or less CGOs that were handed out. So like American gave out, I don't know, 26 or 28 this year. So we're all going into this battleground, essentially all fighting for these same jobs. And like you said, you have to be ready. You can't show up thinking that you're not going to get the tap or that the person you meet was the HR director that looked at your app the night before and really wanted to talk to you. So showing up prepared, ready to go is essential.
Yeah, absolutely. Whitney, so you guys showed up at RTAG. I saw you guys there. It was very exciting for me because I love you so much. Why on earth did you decide you wanted to go to this pilot hiring convention and hear everybody talk about how awesome they are for 3 days?
I love traveling. So any opportunity to take a trip, I'm going to go. No, but in all seriousness, I went with Chris last year, sort of reluctantly, why do I need to go? There's nothing that's going to be there for me. And I was pleasantly surprised. The information that's put out, the spouses group that's there available to take questions and give you candy when you're feeling down is just, it was a great experience. And RTAG, especially because there's this kind of military component. I know everyone there was not military, but it was an extension of the military family that I'm used to. So it felt right. And it was a good time. The building is a buzz when you walk in there, man. It's electric. Everyone's excited. Everyone's hoping to walk away with a CJO or at least some good information to arm themselves with what's to come next. So I do think that they do a really good job getting all the sponsors, getting all the people there, and just putting out information that's useful, not only to those seeking employment in the industry, but for the people in the background, the families who are interested to know what's this going to look like? What does this mean, etc. So I was happy that I was able to participate.
Yeah. Did you come out of there knowing new people? Like, did you make any friends?
Yeah, definitely made connections. The RTAG spouses group has a great Facebook page. So, while there aren't like instant connections, instant friendships, I know that there's a group of people that I can reach back out to and say, hey, what about this? And I did, in fact, see some of the same people that I saw last year. So it's definitely a great place to plant the seeds of friendship.
That's so good. That is so good. Did you go? One of the things I love about what they do at RTAG is they have these breakout sessions with a bunch of different people all day. You know, there's 3 different rooms going at any given time, and they're just knocking stuff out. Did you go to any of the talks?
I did. I participated in maybe 2 or 3 this year and a few more last year. Good information put out. Do you want to know specifically
which companies, like, where did you head up?
So opening the conference, Spitfire opened the conference and did
you come to ours?
Yeah. Y'all did a hell of a job. So it was fun. And then I also attended the spouses panel, where we got to ask one-on-one questions of these former military wives, most of them former military wives who are now pilot wives whose husbands or spouses work in different companies. So we got lots of different perspectives.
Give me some sprinkles of things that you gained there that are interesting.
So we talked specifically about lifestyle of commuting versus living in base. We talked about what scheduling can look like. We talked about how family plays an important role. Extended family, leaning on your family plays an important role. We also talked about transitioning from regionals to legacies. We talked about the tendency of pilots to jump from company to company. We covered the gamut.
I'll like anybody watching me on YouTube is like my face like, ooh, yeah, that jump from company to company. That's me.
Sorry. But you have to do what's best for your family. You have to find the fit that's best for your family.
Yeah, I agree. Would you encourage spouses to go to the convention?
I would. I 100% would encourage spouses to go because you get to hear from the horse's mouth, so to speak, of these companies. If whoever you're interested in, if they're given a discussion, sit in, identify who these people are. If they're just kind of walking, everyone's so friendly and welcoming. You could ask a question if you saw them walking from the hotel or just walking around the convention center. So that alone, I think is very valuable. Just FaceTime, the ability to ask the question to the company as opposed to playing the telephone game with your spouse, trying to find out what is.
Yeah. Now your kids are mid-sized. They're not babies. They're not big kids, right? They're middle kids.
Yes.
Talk to me about, like, I've got 5 kids and they're like, my oldest is 12, which is kind of right in the middle where yours are. Más o menos, right? Would you recommend me bringing 5 kids to this? Would you talk to me about the logistics of what that would look like?
I would not recommend bringing 5 kids just because it's a lot to deal with.
Or having 5 kids, would not recommend.
Would not recommend. Highly not recommend. No, just kidding. No, it's like I said earlier. It's a buzz. There's a lot going on there. It's a lot of serious business taking place, especially on the beginning day and the middle of the second day. Towards the end, as things are dying down, if the kids came and they wanted to walk around, 100%. But I'd say in general, kids are welcome. It looks like kids are welcome. But me personally, I think that they should probably stay in the hotel room until things die down.
Yeah. Okay. So here's my inside baseball is that most everybody that is representing an organization at the convention, not everybody, but most everybody is a veteran. And so I was walking by in the Thunderdome, in the big portion, there was like United and American and FlexJet and the Wives Club, which are the most important parts of this whole organization, right? And which there were two little kiddos that were little, and they ran up to the FlexJet booth, and they were like grabbing stuff and hanging, and like there are meet and greets happening. There are people with their career on the line. And you know what was awesome is like those recruiters were like totally doing two things at once, like listening, talking, and helping the kids out and doing it all because they like, that's cool and they're cool and they get it. But it's also like when I looked at FlexJet, I thought, hats off to my boy, Zach, right? I looked at them and I said, man, they get it. And I would want to be part of this organization because that's how I am, right? I would want, but if you're pushing a kid off or whatever, you're going to get that, like, that vibe's going to stick with you and somebody's going to talk about it. So it's just something for the recruiters to be extra awesome because it's, everybody has to go into parent mode, which is fun and allowed and great. So anyway, yes, no, I will not be bringing 5 kids to the, but every single one of them wishes they could. And that's like, plus I'm working 24 hours a day. All right. So you already had your CJO at this company, Chris. Why did you decide to keep going to RTAG?
Yeah, so like Whitney mentioned, it's good to plan what's best for your family. So although I really appreciate the CJO from the company I got one from, and I like everything about them and what their forward trajectory and what they have going on in the future. But also I know it's important for our family to keep our options open and make those decisions as a unit. So we had already committed going to RTAG. And if there was something else that could come from RTAG, we were open to entertain that. But additionally, it was also great to, like you said, sit into these sessions, hear from the horse's mouth, to go make those connections, to see friends that we met last year. And again, just being a part of that buzz is intoxicating. So, and it really does keep you energized for the next round of the gauntlet that you're going through trying to get a job.
Yeah. Intoxicating is the right word. Like that's how I feel other than the alcohol. Like I love the experience at RTAG, at any convention, just the frenzy that's going on and the ability to meet people and like hear their stories and see them where they are and feel their stress and help them. I spend most of my time being a therapist, just like, it's cool. It's going to be okay. It's going to be great. And it will be. And, helping people sharpen their sword just a little bit. And so that's what I get out of it. For me, it's exhausting. Like at the end of the 2 days, man, like I slept like 14 hours. So,
I'm glad.
Man, when do you start at that regional airline?
So November 12th is my class update. And they say it's about a 3-month pipeline to get through training.
And we are recording this the beginning of about a month out. It's about a month out.
Correct.
Where you're starting. Great. Are you nervous at all? Are you thinking about this, flying the P8, which is a 737 where you don't get a type rating, which is a lane. But it's also been a long time since you've flown that thing. You've been flying some GA.
Correct.
But how are you preparing yourself for this?
So closest alligators to the boat. So they were representing at RTAG, and I talked to one of the captains there. So they will be providing me or paying for my ATP, CTP. He said, look, just first things first, focus on that. After you're done with that, then you're going to roll into systems. Focus on that. And I'm sure this advice is applicable to anywhere. And then after systems, you're going to go to the sims, and then you're going to have your scenario. Read the scenarios. Show up prepared. Don't show up expecting to be taught everything. And this is something that I know all the military aviators will go into it with that mentality. But it was surprising to hear it from him. Like, people are just showing up once they made it this far in the game. Like, okay, you're about to start flying a jet, and you want to show up and just kind of have everything spoon fed to you. It's hard to rewire your brain thinking that that's a possibility. So, but yeah, just reading the scenario, showing up as prepared as possible, and just getting through the pipeline.
Hey, pilot. Does your pilot uniform make a short flight feel like a transcon slog? Flight uniforms have reinvented aviation shirts with 3D stretch, stain repellents, and no wrinkles. These shirts are just plain comfortable and ready for takeoff right out of your rollerboard. Flight Uniform is trusted by more than 25,000 pilots, and their flagship flight shirt has over 1,500 five-star reviews. I've worn every pilot shirt out there, and if you know me, you know I only wear flight uniforms. Be the envy of every cockpit at flightuniform.com and get a special podcast exclusive discount with the code SpitfirePod20 to take 20% off your first order at flightuniform.com. When you are in flight school and you went through all of the different things, for the people that are listening that are not military, when you show up to a brief, you are expected to, there's a list of items that are part of the brief, but it's not for the instructor to brief to you. The instructor actually probably is not going to say a word the entire time.
Right.
And you're going to roll into this monologue for an hour at least about whatever the thing is that you're talking about. And it's very complex, a lot of different things. And then when the instructor does talk, all he's going to do is shoot holes in your theories and your things you're talking about. And so it's very much a battle each time you go up for a sim and or any flight. It's like you're trying to attack and defend yourself all at the same time, and it's misery. However, in this, like, the civilian training environment is different, and it's a different animal. And so, I think that military people, if you go into flight training with this flight school mode mentality that you lock in, then I can't find a place where you can't be successful, right? You will succeed, but you have to go 110% from the start. And like, what's the next alligator to the boat? Let me crush everything about that. I've also found, like, I wasn't big on group study in flight school, probably why I got helicopters, but I have been such a fan of group study in the 121 world. And that's been so helpful and so fruitful because people have different varying experiences, especially not having any civilian aircraft experience. That has been so impactful. So I hope that your sim partner is not in the military. That's what for your mistake.
Yeah,
man.
But just something else that is a motivating factor. So we talked about how, getting to a legacy is the pinnacle, right? And then also knowing that retirement, there's going to be less finances coming in to our household. So just failure is not an option. Mm-hmm. So if these are the things that we want, I have to go in there knowing that I need to show up 100% every single day and make sure that they get the best of me and I get the best out of the training.
Also with that, you sound like me. Failure's not an option. I don't want you staying up all night, like, full of anxiety, thinking about like what happens if, right? And so have peace in the fact that you are a great pilot and you can do it. And you've proven time and time again for 2 decades about your capability. Even though things are hard, your body learns, you will learn, you'll whatever it is that you're going to be struggling with when you have your struggles, like, it's your opportunity. That's how I felt every single time, even in Captain Upgrade. Just so much stress. And it's all self-imposed. All the instructors are like, well, let's go. And you're like, oh, God. So I don't know.
I think one thing that you said, Nick, is important. Like knowing that there will be struggles. Like there will be some things that will be a little bit harder for you, but nothing is insurmountable.
Right.
Take a beat.
Yeah.
You can do it.
You can do it. You can do it. And having somebody in your corner like that, helping you, like Whitney, you have been the person that like every conversation comes back to, which is why I asked you on the show, because I think that you're like, me talking to Chris is only getting 50% of the story. And you're both nodding your head like, yep. But it's true. And that's the beauty of marriage. And that's the beauty of aviation. And I do want you to talk to me about airport management before I forget, because I think that the aviation side of things is usually it feels like a one-sided story, but you guys have both sides. And I want you to talk about like your experience in aviation management and what that's all about.
So much can be said. So let's see. Where do I want to begin? Our industries, although different facets, kind of struggle with the same issues. For example, the pilot shortage has affected airports. The aircraft delivery has affected airports. Like everything leads back to the companies and their pipeline. We can't do additional air service. We can't offer additional routes if we don't have aircraft, number one. And if we don't have pilots, number two. So one of the things that I've been working on lately is the air service development components of the airport in my area. And these are big factors in holding airports, especially smaller ones like the one that I work at, in getting additional service. So, it can be tough. One thing that I can say is that it has been fruitful, being that wherever he's moved with the military, typically it's a major-ish city and there is an airport there. So there has been an opportunity there for me. There has been instances where I can learn and grow and use the aviation knowledge that I have to work at that airport in some capacity. So that's been great. But I don't know, what specifically do you want to know about the airport environment?
I love what you were just talking about kind of the behind the scenes about airport service, meaning getting more jets and more aircraft to deliver people in and out of the area. Why is that important? And how does an airport make money on that?
So multiple ways. Most airports will see, revenues in the form of PFCs. So those are the passenger facility charges that are an additional fee. I was going to say tax. It's not a tax. An additional fee on your every up to 2 segments on your ticket. That's one way that the airports make money. Another is obviously if these airlines are based or have offices or small operations at our airport, we get money from rent. We do charge landing fees. We do charge fuel flowage fees. So all the components of the airline's business kind of leak down to us. So it's important that we know that the airlines are getting good rates on their fuel. You know, we just have to, it's all a big machine, right? We all work together so that everything goes.
Does the civilian side of the corporate or private air side of it, like the FBO and all the planes coming in and out of there, like that also affects the airport also manages that side of the house as well?
Yes. So there are corporations or entities that own these operations, FBOs, maintenance facilities, but they do pay fees for operating on the airport.
Yeah.
There are instances where the municipality or the airport itself will run these businesses. But at the airport that I work at, that's not the case.
So I think about if there's a big thing happening in the town that you live in, like, you know, whatever it is, like the pick the biggest, like the Super Bowl happens in your town and everybody shows up at your town and they shut down taxiways and they park every rich person's private plane on there and all that. Is their revenue going to the airport, or is that pretty much just going to the FBO?
It depends.
Okay.
In general, yes. Everything trickles down to the airport. The airport is effectively the landlord of the space that is the airport. So all the physical facilities, the ground, usually those entities maintain ground leases whereby they're leasing the ground and then the corporation builds the vertical. So yes, all streams go to the airport in some form or fashion.
So interesting. Do you plan on like when you guys are at a major, there's a possibility that you could live where you live, or there's a possibility that you could move into a base. Do you feel like, are you on a mindset where you want to continue doing airport management, throughout, or is it, also, is it like a government job where you can kind of transfer, or is it like, hey, there's an independent organization and you're going to jump from company to company?
Yeah. It is an independent organization. I have worked in different states and have effectively had to work for different airports, but there are facets of the aviation industry. For example, I did consulting for a while where I was remote. So I was able to work at multiple different airports, but for a different corporation that was helping airports with projects. So, thing number one, these skills, although transferable, the job is not. Thing number two, if we were to move, yes, I would continue to want to work in aviation. I love looking up at the sky and seeing airplanes. I love knowing what's going on behind the curtain. You know, it's fascinating to me and it's been fun, and I've had some success in doing it. So why not at least continue to try to do it in the next place?
Yeah, I love that.
If there is a next place.
There is a next place. Listen, I wish when I lived out next to you guys, like, I wish we could still be there. It's, I love where we live now, but man, my heart was planted there, and that is for you. Yeah. Well, guys, thank you for joining me. Thank you for talking to the pilot about, going through this together and trying to sort out how to get to the airlines and the ups and the downs and the threats and the nervousness and just being a unit. So as we go, like, give me one last piece of advice, each of you. Like, what is your piece of advice for the pilot and the spouse that's listening that's about to do this?
I'll go first. So as you're going through this, remember, especially if you're married, right? Consult your partner. This is a team sport here. No decision should be made in a vacuum. And just, you have to do what's best for your family. But then to add on that, just make sure you keep your tribe wide and have a good group of mentors and friends that you can reach out to.
Wow, that was the same advice I was going to give. Listen to your partner. No, I would say, spouses, remind yourself that what they're going through, especially with training, is temporary, and that this journey has phases. What it looks like now may not be what it looks like 3 months from now, so be patient, give yourself grace, know that what they're doing is hard. So give them some grace as well.
What they're doing is hard, but what you're doing is hard too. And that's okay. Yeah. It's both hard, I think. God, man, you guys, thank you for coming on the show, and you're awesome. Thanks for being my friend.
Oh yeah. Thank you. Tell Anna and the kids we said hey and that we missed them.
All right, pilots, that's the episode. I hope you've really enjoyed it. But before you go, do me a quick favor, subscribe to my show and leave me a review. Give me a 1-star review if it was totally worthless. Give me a 5-star review if it was the most amazing thing you've ever heard. I want to hear from you. So if you can give me a review, subscribe to the podcast, make yourself a little bit better, I will be happy. You'll be happy. We'll keep crushing. I cannot wait to see you on the next episode.